glad you're with us wherever you are. If you're joining us here locally in Santa Barbara, California, on the airwaves, on the television, we welcome you at TVSB. We're grateful that you're joining us, and of course so many of you are joining us from all over the world at goodlifetelevision.org, at the YouTube channel, at the podcast, which is called Good Life Conversations. So we're grateful for all of you. As always, we're presented by Bunnan Chevrolet, so grateful for our friends there. And Good Life's talking about the good stuff, and we've had some amazing people, time and again. Entrepreneurs, overcomers, public servants, young people, people with great life stories and journeys. So it's been so fun to unpack those and to have you along for the ride with us. So thank you. I'm so excited about my guest today. Mary-Catherine McBride is with me. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
From Long Island, New York.
Yes.
She's a New Yorker.
I am, and I haven't lost it. I've been out here since the late 70s. And
you never lost
they
it.
still say, you're from New York, aren't you?
I can totally, I can hear it. Yeah, that's...
When I go back home, though, to Long Island, the family tells me I have a Western twang. I said, I don't believe that at all. But I must have sounded really bad then, but anyhow. It's good to be here.
Western twang on a New York, got it.
Doesn't really work.
That's good.
It's kind of fun.
So were you, talk to us about your early life and then the process of coming to Hollywood. I think you bought a one-way ticket from what I understand.
I did.
Talk about that.
I'm born and raised in New York. I'm the oldest of 10 children, good Irish Catholic family, and I have a big clan back there. My mother was one of 14, so I have a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins. But we all grew up with music and art and painting, and very much in the arts and theater and those kinds of things. My grandmother was a classical pianist, and every one of my aunts and uncles played piano. So I grew up singing around the piano, and everybody in the family was huge. But it was a wonderful, wonderful way to grow up. And so when I was in school, and high school started, I started working behind the scenes in the theater department, and loved every minute of it. I was never in front of the stage. I was always backstage. I'm not one for an actress, but I'm good with a hammer and a nail and a paintbrush. And so that started me on that path. Then I worked my way through college and graduated and went into New York City. And I went up for the subway, and at the top of the staircase was ABC Television, and I was looking for an assistant job. So I walked into there in the employment department, I guess human resources it's called, and they hired me right then and there. And I started working at ABC Wide World of Sports for Roone Arledge, which was revolutionizing sports programming at the time. And I worked with a lot of the celebrities, Muhammad Ali and Howard Cosell and all those people. But that started me on the path of filmmaking.
Wow.
That was videotape and 16 millimeter. So I did that for a bunch of years, and then I bought a one-way ticket to California because I wanted to get into dramatic filming. So that was sports and documentaries. And so I came out to California, and I got a job here pretty quickly, and I didn't stop working for 18 years. And theater and drama TV and all kinds of shows. And then I landed up on the pilot for Knots Landing. Knots Landing was, a very big hit. And top-rated show. Was on for 14 years.
Wow.
And I was a producer on that show. I became one of the producers, and for 10 or 12 years of the show. And it was wonderful. So I'm sort of all over the place, starting in New York, and here I am.
Wow.
Now I don't do that anymore. I don't do television anymore.
Yeah. Before we move on, a lot of people come out to California with a dream. Yeah. And I think most of the time it doesn't happen. I mean, it does not. So how did you do this? I mean, how did that work?
That's interesting. Well, work is the operative word. Hard work. And I go back to my father was very wise, and when I was, all of us siblings, if you work hard enough, you can get anything. You just have to work for it. And when I was in high school, I'll make this short, in those days, girls were either teachers, secretaries, or nurses. Well, I didn't really have a calling for any of those. So he insisted that when I graduated high school, I would have a skill to get a job. And he insisted that I take shorthand and typing. Okay, so I took shorthand and typing in school, and I became the state champion in shorthand and typing
Really?
with speed. With speed, I can type fast and I can take shorthand as fast as I talk. And so that served me well because that got me a job in every place I went. I was not afraid to take the testing to get, and that got me all of the jobs, and I grew from there because once I got inside ABC, for example, after 6 months, I knew I wasn't going to pound a typewriter the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I wanted to go out there and do those things.
Right, but you got in.
I got in.
Yeah.
And then I bought the one-way. I was working there for several years. I became a unit manager, and I traveled around the world, hunting and fishing and golf and tennis and all those things that sports do. And when I came to California, and I became a production manager, and when I bought the one-way ticket to California, I was just visiting friends. And I came out to do a little job with a buddy of mine for about a week. And I stayed with he and his wife and his family. And the day after I got here, that job was canceled.
Wow.
So I said, well, I could go back to New York, or I answered an ad in the back of Variety magazine. You know, the film industry, the trade, Variety. And there was an assistant to the executive producer of a production company in Malibu. And I said, oh, I could do that. So I went on the interview, and I got hired because I was a champion shorthand and typing. And
Right.
But I went back to that skill, you see, because that's what they were looking for, the assistant to the executive producer. I said, I want to work with the top boss. How do I get in there? And I took the test as his assistant, and I got hired right then. And that's the job that led from one to the other. And I didn't stop working for 18 years. I only worked for him for 6 months. Then that show was over. Then they had the gal who was hiring people over at Norman Lear Company, studio there in Hollywood, said, where are you going now, Mary-Catherine? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, you want to start Monday on the show? I'm staffing. I said, okay. And that's how it went from one to one to one. And I finally landed up at Lorimar Productions, working for the head of production. And I was a production coordinator, and I got on the pilot Knots Landing. And that was, I said, I want to grow here. I want to keep going up. And he said, okay, do this. And then if the show gets picked up, you can be a producer on the show, associate producer. And I started there for a year, and I worked my way up over 14 years to be the showrunner. And so it's been a path of learning and just growing in the industry and being willing to give up your ego
Right.
to get in and
Right.
to start where it's necessary. And
Right.
just work and you'll get it.
Right.
And after I started on these shows in positions that were backwards a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 steps backwards, but it didn't take much time to realize, they realized that I was more than that and I could be more than that. So it's been very rewarding. If you work hard,
Right.
you can get anything. But you must give up your ego in order to do that.
That's right.
Because if you know, I was a producer, right, in New York. And when I came back out here and I answered an ad for assistant to the executive producer. But I knew I would be I could grow easier if I was talking to the boss over the coffee versus trying to get in for an interview.
Right.
So I was in.
You were in the
Now,
door.
That's right. I was inside the door.
Right.
So I got inside the doors. And it was all thank
Wow.
you, Daddy,
Yeah.
for
Thank you,
shorthand and
Daddy.
typing, getting me on that path. And so you don't know what the journey is going to be. And I've always been involved in theater and the arts and things like that. And I think visually. So it was a natural, and I'm an organizer. I'm the oldest of 10 children, so I've been telling people what to do my whole life.
Right. Right.
I'm destined to be a producer. So that's my path.
That is amazing. There's so many lessons in what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a scripture that says, "Don't despise small beginnings."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sounds like it's an attitude thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to start big, or whatever.
Yes.
But don't despise small beginnings. I mean, and it's almost, I mean, I think it's also true that if you're given this much and you do well and you work it and you're faithful,
Mm-hmm.
then you have more opportunities, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
but I think that, and then just in today's day and age, I mean, I just feel like hard work is underrated. Like I don't know if we're making them like we used to,
No.
kind of, in terms of the work ethic.
I agree 100%.
You know, and that's something that we can't lose.
100%. And it is being lost.
Yeah.
But it's still there. And I can speak from personal experience. I have 2 daughters, and my husband and I, my husband Kevin and my daughter Caitlin and Molly, our daughters Caitlin and Molly, and they are in their early 30s, and they're career women now, and in the industry, and so they followed the footsteps, so to speak, and they are even saying to me, Mom, the people that are the Gen Zs that come in now,
Right.
because they're in their early 30s, and the younger ones coming in have no work ethic.
Yeah.
And when you say this is the job we want you to do, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. What, excuse me.
Yeah, what planet are you on?
Thank you. But they are now telling me
Your daughters are telling you.
that they see that there is no commitment, there's no work ethic, and there's no understanding the tasks, and that you have to do the tasks, not about what
That's
you
right.
want.
Right.
It's about what the job requires and what you've been asked to do graciously.
Right.
And so it's there. My girls have it because they didn't have a choice. I'm
Right.
their mother.
You taught them.
But you have to teach them.
But you also, there's an opportunity there because of that, if you bring an attitude, a great attitude and a great work ethic to the table, you're going to stand out.
Yes, you will.
Nowadays.
Yes, you will.
You're going to take over the world if you.
Thank you very much. Thank
you know what I
very
mean?
much. That's exactly right. And coming from the industry, there certainly has a lot of reputations associated with that. In the fact that they're demanding, and there's personalities and their egos, and which is all true. But I believed and still do practice to this day that you can be gracious and be a good leader and a strong leader. You don't have to, in fact, adopt the negative demanding attitudes or disrespect or dictating or being rude when you're asking your staff to do something. So sugar goes a long way, and just understanding. And what also helped me with my whole approach as a leader, I worked from the bottom up. So I've done all those jobs. I know what it's like to be the lower one. Right. And that the respect is there for what they need to do. And also I believe that it takes every spoke in the wheel to turn. So you need everyone. Everybody, no matter what your position, is important to the overall package of success. So, if you enlist them and understand that, now you're going to get much more. Right. And you're going to get that little bit of overtime without punching the clock or understanding or in fact offering. So there's a lot to say with that. And I'm showing my girls that you can do that too, because they grew up on the set with me. They would come and see mommy in action, but you can be a good, strong leader with ethics and the right attitude. You don't have to be the screamer. Yeah. And I worked with a lot of screamers, but nonetheless. Right. Anyway, that's the path that you have, and that's the training. Yeah. No, that's so good. That's so good. I think, the leader who's done whatever it takes, it has a special authority in my view. Nobody can ever say, "Well, you just stand over there and give." No. Let me tell you about the first 18 years or 10 years or 5. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like that's a whole different thing. So talk about the company Go Be Do Productions, which is a great name. Thank you. You founded this several years ago. Take us back to kind of what your thought process was when you were starting Go Be Do. Well, it was the same as I've been talking. It's wanting to grow as a production entity, and establishing myself as someone that was well-rounded, that a company that could do from live production to video to documentaries to features and television, which I did in my day, and it was a hard path, from creation to develop something, to finding financing, and then producing it, and shooting it, editing it, and selling it. Right. Is a long journey, and it was successful, but it took a lot. So that's when I decided that Go Be Do Productions would be more of an event production company. So I had as I was saying, my first life. And then the second life now is more events. So for the past number of years, I'm doing events. And that's how I got involved in Rotary. Right. And so I bring my skills of producing and vision to raising money to help change the world. That's what I can do now. So it's always been I guess maybe destiny.
Yeah.
That I came up the path I did. I have a very successful career and loved every minute of it. I don't miss it,
Yeah.
but because I love what I'm doing now. And I think it's reinventing yourself. It's always evolving and growing and using the skills that I have in other ways. And I found that Rotary really helps me help them
Yeah.
and producing things. So I do a lot of fundraising and a lot of charity work for Rotary, and help Rotary stay on task too.
Right.
Because sometimes, well, you're a Rotarian.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to bring them back to the table
Right,
here now.
right,
Because working with volunteers is another
Right.
challenge.
Right.
And it's a different kind of challenge, but it's all the same. It's the same path. It's the same chore.
Yeah.
Whether I
Right.
pay you or you're a volunteer, I still have to get the same. The goal is the same.
Right.
To get the job done.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Right.
But that's fine, and everybody knows. Just do what Mary-Catherine says, and you'll
Yeah.
be fine.
It's an easy rule. Yeah,
an
Rotary.
easy one.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, Rotary is a great, wonderful service organization. If you're not familiar with Rotary International, great service organization full of people that really care, and
We want to change
special.
the world
Yeah.
for the better.
Yeah,
That's why I'm in it.
and they are. You
And
are.
we are.
You are. Absolutely.
We all are.
We've had a number of Rotarians on this couch, and I'm always fascinated to hear about the projects in the service, and it's really, my dad's been involved for decades.
Wonderful.
And, it's a special deal.
Yes.
And it's a special, to have an organization that large for that long, with all volunteers, is
It's 115 years now, 120
it's
years.
a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
1905. What does that? Do the math. It's like
yeah,
long time.
118 years. That's an
Yeah,
amazing
it
thing.
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's and that, I think the reason to me why it sticks so much. I mean, obviously community and people want to be together, but when you're rallying around service, there's something amazing about the purity
There is.
of that.
Thank you.
You know what I
agree
mean?
100%. You're all there for the same mission, which is to help.
Yeah.
And it's not about a job. It's not about who's got how much more money or what can you do for me. It's
Yeah.
what can we do together for the world.
Right.
And there's a commonality. There's a connection when you have all the other strappings. It's not a chamber of commerce, which I respect entirely, but
Right.
it isn't that.
Right.
It isn't about the
Right.
business. It's about
Right.
people helping people.
Right.
And that's when you walk into a room filled with those kinds of people. Everything else becomes easy. The camaraderie is there, the vision is there, the cooperation is there,
Yeah.
and the success is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
So that's
and
what I
that's
find
real
very fascinating.
success. Yeah.
And the friendships that you develop, so many
Yeah.
friendships.
Right.
To have like-minded people safely around you
Right.
is a very comfortable environment.
Right.
And then when you see what you can accomplish together,
Right.
it's even more better.
That's right. No, it's so true.
Bigger and better.
And service is, yeah, I mean, we're talking about some big ideas here. I mean, thinking about hard work, thinking about not despising small beginnings, and thinking about service. Like, if a young person's watching, like, if you just latched onto those three and did those three well, you'd probably do okay in life.
There you go.
Like,
Yes,
honestly.
you would. Yes, you would.
So I want to talk about the event part, because I'm personally fascinated by events, and the reason why, because we've done a few here. We have a big one every other December that we do. It's a gala event, and we really work hard at it to make it something that's meaningful and I've had many people. We had one in 2019, and we had former President George W. Bush here, and we had the musician from Nashville, a friend named Nicole C. Mullen, and it was just a wonderful night. And I've had over and over again, I'll talk to people who said, "Man, I've never forget that." And it reminded me of the whole Maya Angelou, people forget what you say, what you do, but they never forget how you make them feel.
Yeah.
Events have a
Yes.
huge opportunity
Thank you.
in terms of the people that are in the room. You got them for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. You got them, right?
That's right.
They're captive. And what you can do in an event in terms of for a nonprofit, for whatever the vision
Right.
is a really powerful opportunity.
Very much so.
So that must be something you think about.
All the time. All the time. The number one goal for me is to have the attendee have a great experience. It's all about the experience
That's right.
of the attendee.
Yes.
And it's also certainly about what your goals are and why you're doing an event. It's just to raise money, and it's to entertain. They're vis-a-vis entertaining.
Yeah.
And also bringing the community together.
Yeah.
Is for
Yeah.
what the events
Yeah.
that I do now. It's a lot for the Rotary, of course, and the one we have coming up, as we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
Is bringing the community together in a safe, fun environment, all ages, and yet to also let them know why they're there,
Yeah.
to help the causes that we're raising money for,
Yeah.
to educate them about the needs for those things and how can they help when they leave here today.
Yeah.
Without preaching too hard.
Right.
You know, it's a
Right.
subtle education,
Yeah.
which is fine, and that's what the point is. But it's all about the experience of the attendee. To when they leave, they had a great time. They learned something. Their family was together. Their friends enjoyed each other, and they want to come back next year.
Yeah.
You can't wait for next year.
Right.
So it's how you treat them with respect and giving them something.
Yeah. No, it's a powerful
So I think
thing.
about that all the time.
And so you work, so if somebody has a nonprofit and they're looking to do an event, they can reach out to you. You're in
yes.
Thousand Oaks?
I'm at Thousand Oaks. Yes.
I mean, so anywhere in that
I'm in
area.
the Westlake Village Rotary Club.
Okay.
And is
Okay.
where I'm a member.
And
I
by
live
the
down
way,
there.
if you're just tuning in, it's Mary-Catherine McBride, Go Be Do Productions, and so she's doing events. If you have a nonprofit or somebody who's trying to raise money for a great cause, this might be your person. Well, I mean, that it is a powerful opportunity, and those events, I mean, which in a place like Santa Barbara, there's so many of them, and they're all special. And there's some people that just go to all of them. I mean, then other people kind of pick their spots, but the money that they raise makes a huge difference.
It does.
It's oftentimes it changes lots of lives.
That's
one night.
That's the goal.
So that.
Yes.
And by the way, I'll say this about events too, because I admire what you're doing. It's not easy to plan events. I almost died in 2019. Oh my gosh.
What did you do?
Well, this George Bush event, right? And I'm, thinking, I'll just cruise along. Didn't have an event planner. Didn't have a U for a while until like October.
Oh.
When
The month before.
2 months before.
Oh, goodness.
And so my friend pulls me aside, who was an event planner for his whole career, and he says, Dean, you're going to crash and burn.
I would have told you the same thing.
Yeah. So he said, you need to call my friend. So there was somebody here who was an event planner. He says, you need to call my friend today. So I did, and she saved the day. So I
great.
totally
Okay.
believe in
Thank
who you are.
Yes,
like
thank you.
it's because
That's right.
people think you just kind of put some tablecloths
do
out.
not.
No.
Oh, no.
This is, and the attention to detail matters.
Yes, very much so.
Huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. The details are what they notice. And
That's
that's
right.
part of the experience.
Yeah.
If you put up something that's not attractive, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
going to remember that.
Right.
Oh, that didn't look nice.
Yeah.
It's the little
Right.
details.
The details.
Make the whole experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we learned a little bit
There's
about
a lot
that.
going into it. You have to think about, and also along with events, you have to think of the demographic you're going for. That's very important in the beginning. Who's your audience?
Yeah.
So therefore, you're going to mold your event around the appeal to that demographic.
Right.
So it just runs the gamut.
Yeah.
Is it male, female, old, young,
Yeah.
rich or poor?
Right.
All the mix of the elements.
Yeah.
So you must define your attendee or demographic and mix it in from the very beginning, because that will
Yeah.
develop. The whole thing comes up from there.
Right. So good. So true. So Rotary, and this happens every June.
June, yes.
First week of
First week
June.
of June. This year is June 3rd.
So
Thousand Oaks.
if you're watching this in 2023, it's June 3rd, but every first week of June. This is the Wild Oaks Country Music Festival. We love country music in this household. It's mandatory.
I'm so glad.
My kids were raised in Texas. Billy Bob's Honky Tonk, the whole thing. Been there many times. My dad's been there. It's you can't make it up. Billy Bob's Honky Tonk. This is where Willie Nelson does his 4th of July parties, real deal.
Oh, fun times.
So I'm not all hat. I'm cattle as well.
Are you familiar with Craig Morgan?
Yes.
Craig Morgan, he's
sure.
our headliner.
He's the headliner.
He's headliner.
Craig Morgan.
You got to come on down.
There
Get those boots
I
and
do.
hat
I've
on.
got my cowboy hat in there.
Come on.
Wild.
Craig Morgan.
Well, Craig Morgan's good. wildoakscmf.com. Wildoakscmf, like countrymusicfestival.com is where you want to go. Sign up. I may just be there. Big black cowboy hat. I got a big head. It's tricky. We found one. It works. Black boots.
I love it.
Encourage you to check this out. Wild Oaks Country Music Festival, first week of June, every year. Great event. Mary-Catherine McBride, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's wonderful to meet you.
Well, that time went by very fast.
I know.
It's a pleasure to be here.
A
Thank you so
Rotarian. Well, let me summarize what we just talked about.
much. Okay.
So, one, she does great events and you need to reach out to her. Two, don't despise small beginnings. So if you've been given a job or you have a job, I remember my first job, I was an intern at a Wall Street firm, didn't know a stock from a bond, $8 an hour, which was a lot to me at this time. Showed up at 6:30 every morning. One time I showed up late, 7 o'clock. The branch manager comes down the hall and says, "Good afternoon, Dean."
Okay.
I said, "Oh, you can't show up late again." Got coffee every day, breakfast, coffee, lunch, sometimes dinner for the staff. That was kind of one of my primary roles.
Yes.
Brought him exact change every time. And I think I learned in that moment, and then I ended up being invited to be a partner, and it like changed my life.
There you go.
But and it was because of a friend of my dad's watched me play high school basketball and said, this redhead, he gets after it. So then there I was. But don't despise small beginnings. So whatever your $8 an hour job is, if you got in the door, get in the door. That's one of the lessons here of Mary-Catherine. But then don't despise those small beginnings.
That's right.
Work hard. We need to.
And remember them as you're going up the ladder.
Yes.
Remember them.
Remember them.
Remember how you were treated. Remember how
Yes.
you wanted to feel.
Yes.
Remember what you wanted to tell them.
Yes.
Very important.
Be the boss you wanted, right?
Yes,
Kind of.
that's right.
Yeah. And then work hard. That's the last point. Work hard. So we need to build in this work ethic to this younger generation because there's no substitute for hard work. That's the truth. Thank you.
Thank you very
Great to
much.
meet
It's
you.
a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.